Hi, my name's Dan, and this video is one I'm doing in a series of videos about mission design in a larger set of videos I'm doing on game design. And in this video, I'm going to particularly talk about procedurally generated missions. I'm not really going to go into a huge amount of depth. It's really just an introduction to this topic. There is a reasonable amount of stuff out there. There's lots of people who've tried various different approaches to procedural generation of missions. Just a quick explanation of what that means is that there's missions that haven't been designed but have in some way used programming to produce missions that vary, and there's usually some randomized elements involved there. So what are the good reasons for using procedural missions? It can give a fairly individual experience. It saves development time. This is a very attractive feature for procedural generation, and there's a lot of work being done in procedural generation in lots of different areas in games. They're usually, at the moment, side missions, if there are games that do this procedural generation of missions. One of the reasons for that is that they're not really thought of as being good enough yet for the main missions. I guess another way of looking at that is that the main missions often are very tied with the story, and the story is quite prescriptive, and so you want to design those missions. But procedural mission generation is a way of getting some flavour in the rest of the game for these for the side missions, and it's quite a good place to be trying these sorts of things out, to be honest. One of the attempts to do this in recent times that's been quite widely talked about is the Radiant Quest system in Skyrim. Okay, so I want to talk about quickly a common approach that's used for designing procedural missions, certainly a fairly simple way of going about this, which is to use basically plug-in elements. So to do this, you come up with some kind of formula of how the mission's going to look. I've produced a quick one off the top of my head. It's fairly straightforward. Find X or Y and give to Z. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose from various things, probably randomly, and pick and fill in those things. So find 13 buttercups and give to Fairy Mary. Or it could be find 27 rat's tails and give to Trader John, or, whatever. And that gives you that variety with the plug-in elements. I want to just share something with you, if you don't mind, which is that one of the things that takes the most time for me in preparation for these videos is finding the screenshots that I want to use. And sometimes for some concepts, it's particularly difficult to find screenshots. This is what I got when I tried to search for plugging in wires to kind of illustrate the idea of plug and play. Another way of thinking about this kind of plug-in thing is to think of them as cards. It's nice to have a picture of a card game. It's slightly tangential, but so you could think of this as being you're going to pick one from a pack of cards of the object, and you're going to pick one from a pack of cards of the people that you need to take it to. So if that helps you in visualizing, you can do it that way. Okay, so nearly at the end, I just want to talk a little bit about some drawbacks that have been perceived for procedurally generated missions, and these are things that you might want to think about if you're going to go down this route. So the first one is you need to avoid impossible missions. Most of the time, this doesn't seem to be a particular problem, but if you have an open world situation where the player can potentially attack and kill any of the residents in this world, and then you have a plug-in and play procedural generation system which then requires them to hand in to somebody who no longer exists in the game. That can obviously cause a problem. So you need to think about these continuity things potentially. Another problem is cherry picking. Again, I've got a very tangential screenshot, but here we are. It's a very nice picture. By cherry picking, I mean that players, if they find out what's going on, and they will find out what's going on, then there's a temptation. If you've got an NPC that you can go to and click, I want a mission, and they'll generate a mission for you, and you can say whether you accept it or reject it. And if you click them again and they generate a different mission, then there's the temptation to stand there and click several different missions until you find the one that you really want to do, or one that's easy, and to game the system like that. Players will always game the system. And then the third one is sameness. It's probably very quick for you to realise that something as such a simple formula as collect X of Y and give them to Z is that it starts to feel very much like you've got this cookie cutter. It's the same over and over again. And actually, it is, because it's the same quest. So getting that kind of feel of variety in the quests is more difficult, or it can be. And especially the more the player uses these procedurally generated quests, the more they will see patterns in them, because people are very good at seeing patterns. So that's it. That's really what I wanted to talk about. There are, as I said, stuff out there which is interesting. There's procedural generation in all sorts of areas. Is a very much an experimental area of gameplay at the moment. But that's it from me for now.